Studying long hours but still struggling? Very often, this is caused by choosing study techniques that do not fit the exam or assignment needs. A good way of thinking about that is called Bloom's taxonomy. So, what is Bloom's taxonomy? It is a model for thinking developed in the 1950s by educator Benjamin Bloom. It's been revised a few times, but it has remained fundamentally the same. The pyramid structure suggests that our thinking and understanding is achieved in layers, and that those layers require different kinds of mental processes. It also suggests that just as you can't build a pyramid by starting in the middle, you can't achieve the middle sections like analyzing and applying without first understanding and remembering. So, how can this help you pick study strategies? Well, let's back up just a bit and talk about the differences in exams between high school and college. Students tend to come to college planning to use the same study strategies that worked well for them in high school, and depending on their high school, this can sometimes work. However, it can also not, and the reason lies in the different kinds of questions asked on the exams and the different kinds of thinking teachers and professors ask students to do. In high school, you often have to recognize the correct information, remember definitions, identify parts, dates, etc. You have to understand the material enough to summarize and explain it, but you don't have to take other facts and put them in situations that haven't yet been presented to you. On the other hand, in college, most of the exams ask you to figure things out, to problem solve. We're going to go through each of these levels, defining each, articulating study strategies, and sample test questions so you can better select strategies that fit your particular needs for your courses. When you study to remember, you're being asked to recognize or recall information. Some sample test questions would be things like, what is the definition of theocracy? List all the monarchs in order. What are traits of a democracy? Some ways to study for this would be to use flashcards or Quizlet, or to utilize timelines and lists. When you study to understand, you do so because you know you're going to have to interpret, exemplify, classify, summarize, infer, compare, or explain. Some sample test questions would include, what's the main idea in this chapter? How is it supported? How would you explain the fall of the Roman Empire? And compare and contrast electric and gas. To align your studying to this type of exam, you can try summarizing the chapter in your own words, explaining a concept to a friend, or comparing and contrasting two concepts. Remember and understand levels are how most students prepared in high school, but it is important to understand that it is not enough for the types of exams you're going to be asked to do in college. So let's look closely at those. When you study to apply material, you know you're going to be able to execute and implement. Sometimes the questions may include things like, what do you do if a patient presents with blank? Solve for x in this equation. If you have two objects 300 meters apart, one traveling at 30 meters per minute and another traveling at 40 meters per second, after how much time will they cross paths? So to prepare, you would do things such as word problems, especially for math and science, do practice problems, and read case studies. A lot of your exams will ask you to use analysis. You're going to have to differentiate between options, organize information, and attribute effects to causes. Some sample questions include which ideas are most important and which ones feed into others, or what are some implications of saying God is Trinity. To prepare, you can create logic maps of chapters. This will help you figure out how the pieces all fit together. You can also weigh the importance of an event as compared to another, or look at implications of content. The next level is evaluation. When you are asked to evaluate, you may have to check or critique things. Some sample questions may include, if you were the sitting monarch during this era, what would you have done differently to keep the peace? Why? Or, which study is most effective in demonstrating the principles covered in this unit? Why? In order to prepare, you want to practice thinking about what course of action is best in any given scenario. You want to be able to offer your own opinion. Creating is the top level of the pyramid and is generating, planning, or producing an outcome. Some sample test questions may be things like, what would a study look like that measured the effect of music on studying? Or what information would the public find most pressing? How can they be portrayed? Some study strategies would be designing a study or experiment and identifying what the variables might be, designing a service project, or creating an infographic of the information. Now, let's wrap things up by going over our key points. 1. Mastery of material happens in stages, and different kinds of thinking is required to perform various tasks. 2. Aligning your study strategies with your exam and course expectations will improve your performance. And lastly, higher level processing takes more time and work. Make sure you plan for this. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.